Hey everybody, working on the low budget build here. It's getting close to done actually. Um, while the last episode was uploading to the computer, I went ahead and installed the jack. I was thinking of putting it down here this way, but the contact here would kind of get in the way of this tuner if I did that. So I decided to have it hanging down this way. And that should work out fine. The connector lugs are right here, and I just cut that to length, and so now I'm just getting ready to solder it up, getting ready to tin these wires actually. Okay, I soldered up the jack, and I installed the last pair of little hold down pins here, and everything seems to be nice and tight. And next step is I need to test it. Okay, I added electrical tape and small brass nails to the list of supplies used. Shielded cables also on the list. CA glue, I forgot about that earlier. I put down the purple and the pink Sharpies, but if I'd been more careful I wouldn't have had tear out. Obviously I used tissues. I used Windex to clean off the polishing compound. But when I did these, by that time my shipment of naphtha had come in, so I used naphtha for that. So I guess naphtha, you can use either one. Windex is cheaper. Yeah, there's a lot of little supplies here. I think maybe what I'll do is I'll price out the parts and then leave it to you to, most people have a bottle of Windex sitting around the house kind of a thing. And you can always steal some toilet paper out of the bathroom. And if you're more careful, you don't need the Sharpies. You are going to need some super glue, but a lot of folks have super glue already, so all that kind of stuff. I can, for some of the other stuff like the shielded cable, find an old mouse or an old keyboard and cut off the cable and use it. Small brass nails, you can pick those up for like, $2 or $3 for like a box of 100 up at a big box hardware store. Roll of electrical tape. All pretty common kinds of things, especially if you've got, a drawer in the kitchen with tools and junk like that for a household. But anyway, yeah, let me hook up a amp and test this jack. Okay, it works. Still not in tune. Load that note. Still got to put a bridge crown wire on it. Okay, the bridge crown is going to go on the little mounting screw back here for the number 3 tuner. So I went ahead and pulled the wire off the number 3 tuner because I'll have to remove it. I was just looking at the previous episode, make sure everything was okay on it, and I was noticing this in it. That is not cut through. What that is, and there's a little bit over here too, is that, remember, this is an Ibanez neck, and so this thing had a wicked thin neck profile on it to begin with. And at this portion of the neck is actually less than 20 millimeters thick. And I didn't want to carve the heck out of it. And so I only went very gently with the sander in this region right here. And because of that, I didn't actually get all of the sealer out of the wood, and so it never took dye in the first place. So that wasn't someplace where it had been dyed and then I accidentally sanded through. That's a place where I never sanded off the sealer in the first place, and it never got any dye to begin with. Same thing over here. I didn't want to take too much off the shoulders, and consequently, in this region there was some deep penetration of the sealer or clear coat that they originally used on the finish, and so it, once again, it didn't take dye. And that's what's going on there. That was a matter of, yeah, I was more worried about the shape than the color, so to speak. So, it's relic, right? Okay, I took a bit of cabling and stripped out the black wire and slipped it underneath this screw here for this tuner. And there's the wire. Now all I need to do is solder it to this terminal right here. And there it is, all soldered up. It's actually, that's it right there underneath this guy. And it's connected right back there. And then it goes over this screw over here. So we're grounded. Okay, so now I need to get the number 3 string back on, get it all tuned up, set the intonation, and set the action. And then I think it might be time for a sound check. A little bit too much relief in this neck. Time to adjust the truss rod. Okay. I adjusted it so the fret plane's now pretty much flat, and I think it should be good now. Well, I straightened out the neck with the truss rod adjustment. That actually lowered the action a bit, and the saddles are already kind of high. And if you recall, our pickup's all the way down, so we need to have this much shim in here in order to clear the pickup, which means I might want to put some shim under here, because these are already jacked up pretty high. I'll go ahead and see how high I have to adjust them. But yeah, it's looking like, you know, if it turns out the lowest one is raised up like 2 mil, then that means I could, you know, put a mil's worth of shim underneath this and lower them all down by a mil. That kind of idea. Well, I'm getting a bit of fret buzz here. I guess I'll double check the truss rod, make sure it's adjusted correctly. If you take a look here at the saddles, I don't know if you can actually see that very well, but they're all like, what do we got here? Yeah, they're all up. One more adjustment. There we go. Okay, yeah, there you go. As you can see, they're all jacked up a couple mil. So, a bit of shim underneath this thing wouldn't hurt. And, due to this fret buzz, I kind of suspect that these frets are not level. I haven't put a rocker on them yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. So I might have to take the strings off and level the frets. So, yeah, so much fun. But hey, God's in the details, and it's not over till the fat lady sings, so. Okay, got the strings off, and I've marked all the frets with blue Sharpie. And I think I'm going to start, oh, and I also used the notch straight edge there. And yeah, the frets themselves, man, I was like, you know, checking it here and checking it here, checking it here with the straight edge. And they're like so like uneven in various ways in different places that I was like, I'm not going to try to just set the fret plane. I'm actually going to set the neck level flat and then just, you know, go from there, which is the way that most people usually do. Usually what I do is I say, well, what you're really worried about is the tops of the frets, but these are so messed up I figured I better like zero it to the fretboard. So yeah, I reset it to so the fretboard is flat and the fret plane is where it is, probably going like this. And so now I've marked it, and I'm going to hit it up with the sanding beam, but I'm only going to use a really fine, like 1,000 to 2,000 grit, and I'm just going to do it really lightly, so I can just like barely take off the ink on these guys, just at the high spots, just so I can kind of get a snapshot of what I'm looking at. I know that number 10 here seems to be like a mile high compared to everybody else, but and only at the ends, not the center. But other than that, and some of these guys here seem to be kind of low, and that's so far that's all I've really been able to discern from just the fret rocker, and you know, inspecting with the straight edge at different places. So yeah, running a little sandpaper with a beam on this will tell me a lot more. Okay, I went ahead and leveled it to with 2,000 grit, just a little bit, and then I went ahead and crowned it using a half round file. And the idea with the half round, instead of using a regular crowning file, is this thing is a half round hemisphere. So if you run it across the fret, it's going to carve it back into a hemisphere shape like original. And all you do is you mark your fret, and then you just run this across it once, twice, something like that, until you can see that you're starting to remove your mark, and then you know that you've removed enough material that you've got more or less a hemisphere going on. So anyway, yeah, it's been leveled, they've been crowned. It's feeling a little rough right here. I think I'll hit it with a little sandpaper. This is feels like 320, I think. Just a little rough right in there. Maybe I ought to hit it with a file. Yeah, it's just this last fret, really. Let me get this side right quick. Yeah, just a little bit right there. Let me grab a fret end dressing file. There you go. Nice one, actually. A Stumac. There we go. Kind of round it off. Yeah, that's nice. Time to get some oil while the strings are off. Okay, got the infamous purple whatever pick guard, mother toilet seat, yeah, and I made a spacer for the bridge block, and I'm gonna go ahead and squirt that with the black paint, same stuff I used on the screws, and that way this will all be black here, and that'll help make it less noticeable. And then a spot of CA glue and glue to the bottom of this, allow the whole thing to continue to float on top of the guitar. Okay, that bridge spacer is drying, and I forgot to mention something. One of the reasons why I did 2000 grit on the leveling is it's so fine it didn't leave any like scratch marks, any noticeable scratch marks on the frets once you ran the other file over it, and that didn't leave any file marks that were really noticeable, so I didn't really have to bother polishing them. And that's why that's one of the other reasons why I went with such a fine grit, is so I was trying to get away without polishing. And it looks like I succeeded, because they didn't seem to get too marked up at all. So okay, spacer's dry. Time to glue it to the bottom of this thing. Okay, I've got it strung up, tuned up, intonation set pretty much. Action is set at about 1.2 mil, and I'm getting buzz like on 23 and 17 on number 6, and I'm getting buzz on some note on number 4, and maybe 1 or 2 other notes are not ringing out quite cleanly. So I'm going to raise the action a little bit and see how that goes. I might need to take the strings off and have at these last 8 or so, half dozen frets, whatever, have at them again with the leveling beam. So